The appropriate approach to sexuality education has been cited as one of the most important aspects of ensuring that young people are able to make the best choices in regards to their reproductive health. According to Janet Museveni, the Minister of Education, though schools are important to ensuring that young people receive the right kind of education on matters relating to sexuality, the family remains at the core of any holistic approach to sexuality education.
I am so grateful to God that as a country, we have come out strongly united against any attempt to bully and intimidate us into submitting to cultural values which undermine our own.
The Minister of Education, who made the statements while launching the National Sexuality Education Framework on Friday, acknowledged that young people are growing up at a time when social media, television and other forms of technology pose a challenge of choosing between the numerous competing messages on sexuality.
The world media is driven by particular interests and agenda, dominated by the permissive liberal forces of the modern world. Our inexperienced and impressionable youth are most vulnerable to these moral attacks.
According to the 2016 Uganda Demographic Health Survey, 25% of teenage girls are either pregnant or have already had their first child. Participants who attended the launch of the framework largely blamed the media for exposing the young people to inappropriate sexual practices.
You're giving him or her something else, and the media is coming in to give everything on a silver plate. For example, you'd find a 2-year-old giving dirty dances, and all they will tell you it is from the TVs and all the other things.
Mothers teaching sex starts from when the child has started understanding your face. When the child is breastfeeding, sex education starts.
Because we want to see that the issue of sexuality is tackled at all levels, and more especially the church, because you know the church has the moral obligation to make sure that the nation looks at their sexuality in a positive way, like our children.
The director of the Organization of African First Ladies, Bit Bisangwa, says the framework has been made as inclusive as possible, and it even caters for children as young as 3 years old.
There's a vagina, there's a penis, but then you tell them you don't use those words when you're teaching these ones because you need to be decent, and so you tell them we don't use those words in public. So that's why we use pet words like choo-choo, you know, like I don't know, others call them pee-pee.
The first framework, called the Comprehensive Sexuality Education Framework, was rejected because it was thought to encourage practices that some thought were incompatible with Ugandan values.
People wanted the framework to have rights like sexual rights. Like everybody has a right to sex, you can have it anytime you want, just do it safely. And Ugandans said, no, those are not our values.
There's an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. It's here that stakeholders have convened to launch the National Sexuality Education Framework to drive down early pregnancies, early marriages and sexual immorality. However, the worry is whether the public will welcome this framework. Andwanitwe, NTV.